Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Ross Benjamin of rbwins.com, and it is Thursday, the 22nd of December. And like every Thursday, I'm joined by my cohort, Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Not only a great handicapper, but he's been a really good friend to me and over the years. And Doug, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there, by the way. But I haven't been able, I'm wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. I keep forgetting to wish you one.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Ross. Yes, got a lot of activities. We know that different things going on and stuff like that. And I'm sure all the people that are viewing have the same thing going on. So
Yeah.
one last Christmas outfit with one more Christmas tie to go.
Gotta
And
love it.
this one sold. It doesn't even the noisemaker doesn't even work anymore. But so it's a fun time of year. Lots of things going on, and I know that I'm sure you're going to be affected by it as well. But people across the upper part of this country, boy, just
Yeah.
a good amount of snow, but more importantly, the wind. It
Yeah.
sounds like is going to be a huge issue, and so hey, everybody, be safe. Certainly as you can, and if you're flying, well, hopefully you just don't get delayed too bad. From that
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah. Makes for some treacherous road conditions. And up here in Western New York, Rochester specifically, where I reside, we've had mild winters for the last 3 years. And here, this is the worst weather that's being predicted. And it's coming on Christmas weekend, go figure. So certainly puts a lot of stress on families in the area. And also, you worry about others being safe, et cetera, et cetera. But, we're going to be dealing with this in the NFL on Saturday and Sunday as well, with the weather conditions being hazardous or not so good, whatever you want to phrase it as, across the Northeast and the Midwest. So, but Doug, yeah, you wanted to talk about some Christmassy things before we get to our free picks, which are going to be in the games taking place between the New York Giants and Minnesota Vikings. Doug will be covering that. I'll be taking a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders game. And before we get to that, Doug, what do you got?
Yeah, well, just this is just a question for people. I'll share my story here. Is that, and we'd like to see your comments on this, by the way. What is your best Christmas memory? In terms of a gift or something like that. So, if you'd like to share that with all of us, we'd like to see what you've had happen to you. What's come your way? To me, two of them, both when I was younger. Okay, and having to do with just some in-home activities. One when I was, I guess, around maybe 10 or so, got a ping pong table. And so that was great, learned to play it and stuff like that, and had that. And I played that pretty regularly. I got pretty good at it. And we had that as long as till I was maybe like 14. And then I started beating my dad. So that was the end of the pool table. I started into the ping pong table. The following year, in came a pool table. Okay. So they splurged for that pool table, and did all that. So those are a couple things that put a smile on my face, and things that that occurred in your life that you never forget.
Yeah, well, back in the day, I'm going back to where I was around 10 years old. I used to sit and watch football with my father at 7 years old, and he was a sports bettor. So you want to know where I get my genetics from or where my beginning starts from. It really evolved from the early days of my childhood. And I know that's an absurd thought, but it's true. And also remember becoming, by the age of 10, I was a sports fanatic. So if there was a sports event on TV and it was at night or even during the day, and we were a one family television. Now,
Right.
normally it wasn't an issue with my father, but my father had to make my mother happy sometimes and concede and let her use the television. Well, I used to get so perturbed at my age that I couldn't watch a game that was on. And back then there was no internet or anything, right, Doug? Um, so they gave me a 13-inch color television when I was around 10 years old. And I
Okay.
was ecstatic because now nobody can control what I could watch on TV. I mean, back then there was no cable. We're talking ABC, CBS, NBC. Back then, there wasn't even any Fox,
Nope.
There was a PBS channel locally here. So used to get some college hockey there, and I used to be a big hockey fan back then. I still am. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you another funny story, Doug. Um, I was a Buffalo Sabres fan from the time of their inception to this day,
Mhm.
and still am to this day. And I remember the first year they made the playoffs, they were playing the Montreal Canadiens, and that was back when the Canadiens in their heyday.
Right.
So back then, if you remember, we used to have the old transistor radios. They may
Right.
have been about, so big. And I had to be, my bedtime curfew was 9 o'clock. I was around 13 years old at the time. And I wanted to know what was going on in the game. So I used to be able to pick up WGR 55 out of Buffalo. It was a little bit of static, but I went to bed. I was listening to the game, and they would not allow me to do anything past 9 o'clock. So I snuck the transistor radio and hid it under my pillow, and started to listen to the game. It was on real low volume, and the game goes overtime.
Oh, geez.
It's game. They're losing the series 3-0, and Rainy Robert scores in overtime to make it a 3-1 and keep the series alive. Back then, I mean, you're talking Buffalo was the Sabres were in existence all of 3 years back then, and I just yelled and screamed when that goal came, and they come running in the room thinking there's an emergency, and I had to fess up, and of course I got grounded for a week. But people ask me, was it worth it? It certainly was. It was a
Absolutely.
fond memory, and we remember those types of things as sports fans. So anything else you want to share before we get into the free
Yeah,
picks?
yeah. Just hey, we got a lot of activity going on. Okay,
Yeah,
with in the variety of sports, and so we got bowl games. Could be a little light, over the next couple of days, but on the back end of that, I know, for example, I have a play on Friday, but then next week I definitely gonna have some big plays. Got a 6-unit play on next Wednesday, as a matter of fact. That's already locked in, and a 7-unit play in the NFL on Saturday. So and on top plays or best bets, 6 or 7 or higher. 6-0-1 of late. Mentioned that on Monday,
nice,
but I'll just throw it out
nice.
there again. And then got lots of other good things going. Hockey's going well tonight. Thursday, I got a 7-unit best bet, so one of my top plays of the season thus far. So we have that. So plus then we got all the other sports going on, Ross. It's a hectic time of year,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everybody. Especially if you're a sports better, sports handicapper, even worse. But
yeah,
you know what? It's just hey, it's what we do. It's that time of year. It's not like
yeah,
it doesn't come every year and we don't know it,
yeah.
but it's a
Exactly.
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, the biggest challenge, and I know me and you've had several discussions about this off air, for us as sports handicappers that take it very seriously, we do it full time, is trying to find a balance between family and work. And especially when you're doing something you have a passion for and you love, which I could speak for Doug when I say that he shares that along with me. And during the holidays, it becomes even more tougher. But you know what? You're used to it. We do it every year. I think what's bothering me the most right now is the uncertainty with the weather kind of thing. And hey, everybody's going through it in the Northeast and the Midwest, and just stay safe out there, folks, and keep a low profile. Don't get too stressed out, man. Life is too short, and you're not going to get out of it alive anyway. So don't worry too much. Anyway, Doug, any want to go into your free pick or
Hey,
anything else
I
there?
am ready to go in free pick
All
because
right,
this.
let's do it.
I'm assuming it has nothing to do with weather because it's an indoor game. Okay, we
Yeah,
got the Giants at Minnesota, so and they changed the roof, so I think they're supposed to get that much snow, so that whatever every year was, what was it, like 2012 or 2010 when the roof collapsed at Minnesota?
yeah,
When
yeah.
all that
The
snow
old
came in and stuff
Metrodome.
like.
Yeah,
Yes, the old Metrodome with that was it Teflon roof or whatever it was. It
yeah.
wasn't good. But anyway, so let's talk about this now. The New York Football Giants. They appear to be headed to the postseason after their upset against Washington, and Minnesota's already locked in. But anybody that's a football bettor or someone that follows the NFL closely believes these teams are overrated, and justifiably so, I have to say. You have to consider that Minnesota, 10-3 record, point differential +2. Okay, not good. New
It's
York Giants,
hard to
eight,
believe.
5-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Their point differential is -25. And if you use that number and compare it to other teams in their conference, New Orleans is -29. Atlanta is -27. So very comparable, except they have 5-9 records. Okay. So completely different. So, whether these teams are lucky or not, that's for others to judge. So what we're going to focus in now is how this game can play out. Now, Minnesota has the worst pass defense in the NFL. But are the Giants really capable of exploiting it? Because they're number 27 in pass offense. On the other side of the ball, the G-men, you can run on them. Okay. They're 30th against the run. But with Dalvin Cook, Minnesota comes in to this weekend 28th rushing the ball. So with this, there's not a lot to choose from to me in this. And the spread is -4 for Minnesota when they get from the odds makers, I'm going to say up to 3 points for being at home. So that's only a difference of 1 point between these two teams. So I don't think there's much to choose from here. So I'm going to look at Big Blue, who is 34-17 against the spread in road games when the total is between 45.5 and 49, and this one's at 48 right now. And then if you dress up this particular team as an underdog in 2022, well, guess what, Ross? 8-2 against the number. I got the New York Football Giants plus the 4 over the Minnesota Vikings on Christmas Eve.
I like it. I do. And if you stop and think about it, and I want to hear your take on this as well. Sometimes you have to look at who's the most urgent and desperate team at this particular moment in time. I don't know if, again, I haven't looked at the standings in terms of at the top, but I pretty much think that Minnesota is locked in as the number 2 seed in the NFC. They're not going to catch Philadelphia. And I don't think anybody can catch them as well. If I'm thinking off
Dallas, no,
Dallas
Dallas
will be a
they have a
wild
record,
card.
but they're a
Yeah,
wild card. Yeah.
exactly.
So no, they're locked in at number 2.
Right. Where the Giants have a couple teams on their tail for that final wild card spot in the NFC. So in terms of urgency and desperation, I like the play a lot. Plus the fact that the Giants got off the snide last week after being in a slump. And surprising to me, they came up with a very strong performance in a road win at Washington, a team they are also contending for that final playoff spot. So what do you put a lot of emphasis in that particular area, Doug, when at this moment in time, or at this time of year, I should rephrase that, if a team is more desperate and more urgent than the other? Now, again, let me backtrack a little bit. I'll also tell you that just because a team needs the game more doesn't mean they're going to win nor cover. I mean, but at the same time, you got to think if you put emotions into the equation when handicapping an NFL game at this time of year, you have to consider that in my mind. But again, I'd like to hear your thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I let's say what you just said, I completely agree with. Just because teams, the expression they have to win. Well, they do, but that doesn't mean they will. And and you don't always know what the mental aspect of a team is, no matter what it is. Okay, I mean, because how many times have we seen, for example, and whatever the game you want to use, but a team, they're at home. They have to win this game to make the playoffs. Was it last year or the year before, Baltimore? They had to win at home. I thought wasn't Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, it was
Was it
2017.
Okay.
They were playing Cincinnati. Cincinnati with a losing record. Baltimore needed to win to get in. And the only reason why I vividly remember it was the first year Sean McDermott was in Buffalo. And by virtue of Baltimore losing and Buffalo winning in Miami, they ended up qualifying for the playoffs that year for the first time in 19 or 20 years.
Okay,
So
there you go.
the
So I mean,
perfect
yeah. So
example. Yeah,
so that I mean, but that's there's a really good example of what can happen, So, but yeah, I
Indianapolis last year, Doug, same thing.
with
They
right,
needed
right,
to win.
exactly. Yes,
Double
right,
digit favorite at Jacksonville, and they lose the
right.
game outright.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, 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 no. But I mean that's so yeah. So I agree with you to the point of yes, they have more to play for, certainly. It's just a matter of trying to understand the mental capacity of the team. And in this case, if you're going to have a team that needs to win, you'd rather have the underdog, okay? Because still lose, but you can
Yeah,
cover the spread.
exactly. So I'm all for it. Giants plus the 4 at Minnesota on Saturday. That's from Doug Upstone. I'm going to take a look at Saturday night's game, 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on Christmas Eve between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. That game will be played at Pittsburgh. And speaking of weather, it will be a factor in Pittsburgh. Not calling for a lot of precipitation at game time, but game time temperatures are forecast to be around 10 or 11 degrees. And with 15-mile-an-hour winds, it's going to feel like 5 below. That's what we call wind chill factor in the Northeast. In any event, you got a cold weather climate team like Pittsburgh playing at home against a warm weather climate team like Las Vegas, an indoor stadium team, Las Vegas, meaning that's where they play their home games indoors. And on top of the fact that Las Vegas's weather is much better than it is in the Northeast at any time of year. But here's the thing that surprised me. I looked, and despite Pittsburgh just being, I believe, 6-9 right now, the Steelers have gone 4-0 straight up in ATS in their last 4 non-division games this year. On top of the fact that they're 5-0 straight up in ATS in their last 5 versus teams that currently have a losing record. So all of that qualifies right here. Since 2020, the Steelers are also 11-4-1 against the spread and 11-5 straight up when their point spread is +3 to -3. Conversely, the Raiders 3-6 against the spread and 2-7 straight up on the road, following a home win. They are coming off a home win last week, 30-24, and Derek Carr since 2018, Doug, he's 18, and 31 straight up, and 19-29 against the spread in his starts on the road. So he hasn't fared very well in that situation. And here's a nice betting angle that applies to the money line in this game, which I'm going to use. Anytime you have a money line home favorite like the Steelers, it's in regular season action, and it's game 15 or more of the season, after game 14 of the season, whatever way you want to phrase it. And they're facing an opponent coming off a home game in which both teams scored 24 points or more, which applies to the Raiders. They won 30-24 at home last week. Those home favorites have gone 41-11 straight up since 2005. So that's somewhere around 70 or close to 80%, 79, 78%. And I never like to cross the threshold of -135. So I'm going to take the Steelers here. They are at -135 as a consensus line right now on the money line over the Raiders. And folks, if that goes over 135, I wouldn't hesitate to lay right up to -3 on the Pittsburgh Steelers in that instance. So I'm on the Steelers, Doug, over the Raiders, and Doug likes the New York Football Giants plus the 4 over the Minnesota Vikings. Both games go on Saturday, Christmas Eve. Keep that in mind, folks. There are 3 games on Sunday, but the majority of games played this week are on Saturday. So, Doug, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it should be a very good week 15. You have to have the NFL Network, by the way, to get that Raiders Pittsburgh game. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind on that one. So that won't be available to everybody. But and some of those that have the deals on friction there too. But hey, that's all part of the sports betting scene. And hey, it just goes with it. And Christmas Eve, by the way, that was always, I'll never forget, as long as I live, 2012. I had a team that was ahead 42-7 going into the fourth quarter on Christmas Eve. It was the Bahamas Bowl, the first annual Bahamas Bowl, and I ended up not covering the game.
Oh
Okay,
boy.
so I never forgot that one. So I'll just throw that out just for a little holiday cheer. Okay,
Yeah.
for everybody. But no, so anyways, everybody, hey, you know what? Have a fantastic Christmas. I plan to. I know Ross does. Everything's going to work out no matter what. Might not be exactly how you plan it. That's kind of what's called life. And so
Yes.
we'll see what can happen. And hey, let's have a big winning weekend. That's what I say this for sports betting. What do you got to say, Ross?
Well said, Doug. Thank you. I am 3-0 so far in the bowl season, been very selective to this point. I'll start to heat up after Christmas time because there's a lot of good bowl games going next week. And then, of course, right into the college football playoffs. And then a couple of real good ones on January 2nd as well. So keep an eye on that, folks. Things are going very well in terms of the bowl season, how I started anyway. And in college basketball, 24-15 since November the 17th, right around 60%. So going good there. And also the NBA coming off a nice winner last night as I had the Cleveland Cavaliers. And around 58% since April 1st of this year. So I've been rolling in the NBA and NFL. I've been in the top 10 on all the leaderboards at all the sites I've been posting on since day one of the regular season. So again, folks, you can find me at rbwins.com. You can find Doug Upstone at docsports.com. We'll be back with Doug again on Monday. There'll be no shows tomorrow and through the weekend as always. But we'll resume Monday through Friday with the Winner's Circle podcast starting next Monday again. And Doug will be with us on Monday. So in any event, folks, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we like to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas. Be safe, folks. Have a lot of fun. Enjoy your family. And we'll talk to you in the next time. And that will be on Monday. So again, folks, good luck and God bless.